Hello and welcome back to my channel, and thank you for your interest in Bible study. This presentation is a companion to the former, in which I spoke about the Lord's saved apostles' unbelief, in the details of the Lord's rejection by the elders of his people, his sufferings, his death, and his resurrection. So I spoke of the fact that there is such a thing as believers' unbelief. Our text for this lesson is John chapter 20 and verses 1 through 9. So let me put up our first slide, and here we have the text, and I'll go ahead and read it. The first day of the week cometh Mary Magdalene early, when it was yet dark, unto the sepulchre, the tomb in which the Lord's body had been laid. It was probably a cave. And she seeth the stone taken away from the sepulchre. Then she runneth. Now, John here is using very graphic language. He's using present tense verbs, which give us a very vivid picture, kind of puts us there. Then she runneth, or she is running, and she is coming to Simon Peter and to the other disciple whom Jesus loved, and saith unto them, They have taken away the Lord out of the sepulchre, and we know not where they have laid him. So we indicates there had been some other women with her. Peter therefore went forth, and that other disciple, and came to the sepulchre. So they ran both together, and the other disciple did outrun Peter, and came first to the sepulchre, and he, stooping down and looking in, saw the linen cloths lying. Now you see I have saw emphasized. In fact, there are three different verbs here. We have three times saw, seeth, and saw. Represent three different verbs. John, we assume it was John, he saw the linen cloths lying. Yet he went not in. He didn't go into the sepulchre. Then cometh Simon Peter following him, and went into the sepulchre, and seeth the linen cloths lie, and the napkin that was about his head, not lying with the linen cloths, but wrapped together in a place by itself. Then went in also that other disciple, which came first to the sepulchre, and he saw and believed. For as yet they knew not, they did not recognize the scripture that he, Jesus, must rise again from the dead. Okay, in the previous presentation, which I titled The Apostles' Unbelief in the Gospel as this relates to the subject of salvation before Christ, I called attention to the fact the apostles could not have received forgiveness of their sins and eternal life by believing specifically in the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. They could not have been saved, that is, by believing in what people now call the gospel, meaning the death, burial, and resurrection of the Lord. I say meaning, that's most people, of course, that is the gospel. Those are the foundational facts of the gospel, but the gospel is more. The gospel concerns how believers can have lives of meaning and purpose and value that are acceptable to the Lord. But we'll have to save that for another lesson. Now, continuing here, bottom of our slide, it was only after they had walked with him for around 3 years that he, Jesus, began to teach his apostles about the necessity of his rejection, sufferings, death, and resurrection. This new information shocked them. So we're at the top of our new slide. It shocked and unsettled them. They did not come to belief in these things until after they were accomplished. Now, this is just some review of what we looked at, some things we looked at in the former video presentation. Men have always been saved, spiritual salvation, saved the same way, by grace through faith. Yet multitudes of humans have been saved without details of how God would ultimately accomplish their salvation. So when convicted of their need to trust God, to deal righteously with their sins, and put them into a right relationship with Him, they simply trusted Him to do these things for them. That's the key thing. Trust, faith. Now, point 2, this lesson is an extension of that previous lesson. Peter and John came to the Lord's empty tomb. Both saw the same physical evidence. Reasoning from the evidence, John believed something he had not previously believed. Peter walked away, not understanding the meaning of what he saw. So we have a record in which two unquestionably spiritually saved men looked at the same evidence. One got it and the other did not. Now, Dr. John Penn said once to a seminary student who expressed his excitement at breaking through some barriers in his Bible study, Brother Penn said, "You've seen it, haven't you?" Well, John saw it and he got it. All right. Mary Magdalene went to the Lord's tomb early on the first day of the week. It was still dark. She was shocked to discover the stone that had sealed shut the tomb had been taken away, rolled aside. She believed the Lord's body had been taken away and placed somewhere else. Now, the Jewish first day of the week began at 6 p.m. on our Saturday and ended on 6 p.m. of our Sunday. So what that tells us, Jesus had risen from the dead sometime after dark on Saturday and before dawn on Sunday. So likely in the early morning hours of Sunday. Now Mary ran to where the apostles were hiding. They had no expectation of Jesus rising from the dead. They were hiding. To Simon Peter and to the other disciple whom Jesus loved, which we understand to be John's modest self-description, Mary expressed her fears. Peter and John, as we read, ran to the tomb. John arrived first. He did not enter the tomb. Again, probably a man-made cave. Rather, as we read, he stooping down and looking in, saw the linen cloths lying. Now, saw is the New Testament Greek verb blepo. This was the regular word for physical sight. John saw with his eyes. Now, we have to talk here a little bit about Jewish burial customs. Joseph of Arimathea and Nicodemus had removed the Lord's body from off the cross. John chapter 19, verses 40 through 41, we read, "Then took they the body of Jesus and wound it in linen cloths with the spices." Now, these were aromatic spices that they had brought. So what we're looking at is the manner of the Jews is to bury. Here were Jewish burial customs. Okay, now in the place where he was crucified, there was a garden, and in the garden a new sepulchre, wherein was never man yet laid. And so they hurriedly wrapped the Lord's body, and they laid him in a tomb that was nearby. What John saw with his physical eyes, so we're in the middle of the slide here. What John saw with his physical eyes on the slab. Here's what it was. On the slab on which the Lord's body had been placed, the linen cloths, he saw these strips, long strips of linen. They had been wound around the body. They were lying That is, they were lying flat, collapsed, but otherwise undisturbed. The cloths had not been unwound. There was no body within them. Okay, this is what John saw with his eyes. Peter arrived at the tomb. Now, he was not reserved like John. He just barged right into the tomb. And we read that Peter seeth. Again, very, very vivid, present active tense. He is seeing. What's he seeing? He's seeing the linen cloths lying. He's seeing, number 2, the napkin, the headpiece that covered the Lord's head and face. It was not lying with the body wrappings, but had been wrapped together in a separate place. Now, I think that somebody would look at that and say, this is certainly odd. Peter saw these things, top of our new slide. That is, he looked everything over, he observed. So we have a different verb, theoreo. So John blepoed, he saw with his physical eyes. Peter theoreoed, he observed, he looked everything over carefully. Yet Peter did not understand the meaning of what he observed. Luke tells us that he walked away wondering in himself at that which was come to pass. Peter walked away scratching his head. John then went into the tomb and got a closer look at things. And he saw. Now we have yet a different verb. This verb is eido, the verb that expresses discernment, perception, insight. So we use the verb see in this way when we'll ask somebody, do you see what I'm saying? That's the idea. Now, in addition to the linen cloths lying collapsed, but otherwise undisturbed, John also saw the headpiece purposefully folded in a place by itself. And so John saw, he perceived, he discerned, he had insight, and as a result, he believed. John believed something he previously had not believed. Now, clearly, a robbery of the Lord's body had not occurred. And so the question, how could the linen cloths be lying flat but otherwise undisturbed? There was only one possible explanation. The Lord's body had supernaturally come out of the burial cloths that had been wrapped around it. John was the first of the Lord's followers to believe he rose from the dead. Importantly, this belief event, so we read of many belief events in the Bible. This belief event was not John's salvation experience. He was already saved. So what we have as we come down towards the end, point 3, 2 children of God, 2 saved men, saw the same evidence. Both had not believed the Lord would rise from the dead. John put things together and he got it. Peter saw the same things but failed to understand the meaning of it all. So that presents a question, how can 2 saved individuals, 2 children of God, 2 believers, read the same scriptures and one gets it and the other does not? Well, there are varying reasons for this. Some are more spiritually perceptive. Some are spiritually dull. I think Paul dealt with this with the Corinthians when he said, I couldn't speak to you as unto spiritual, but I had to talk to you as babies. Same thing with the writer of Hebrews. I think it's Hebrews chapter 5 that he said, man, I got some good things to tell you, but I can't find a way to do it because you can't handle it. You're spiritually immature. You've not exercised your spiritual senses. Continuing, some see things correctly because they have been better instructed. In not a few cases, It is one's attitude towards the scriptures that is a huge factor. What am I saying? Some do not see things in the scriptures because they do not want to see. Some things that are so plain, so clear, you wonder, brother, why do you not see this? In some cases, it's because one does not want to see. In the case of some pastors, they don't see because the truth interferes with their pastoral ministry philosophy. All right, so continuing, point 4, we'll finish up. This event reinforces the fact the apostles could not have been saved by believing specifics of the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. And then ending point 5, humans who lived in Old Testament times, by the way, John and Peter were Old Testament believers. All of the apostles were. Everyone of whom we read, all saved people of whom we read in the Gospels, were Old Testament believers. So humans who lived in Old Testament times trusted God to deal righteously with their sins and put them into right relationship with Him, yet without knowing how He would ultimately accomplish their spiritual salvation. Though they trusted God to save them, they neither knew Him as Jesus when they did, nor did they know what He Himself would come to do on their behalf. Eternally saved people had to make decisions about Jesus when He came. Some misidentified, maybe many did misidentified Him, and they refused to accept Him as the Messiah and come under His kingly rule. That did not impact their relationship. It had no impact on their eternal salvation, but it did impact their fellowship with their God. They became disobedient believers. Made no impact on their eternal salvation. Okay, so these are some things I wanted to share with you. I hope you find them helpful. Think about them. And as I said, when you grasp some of these things we've talked about, it has the potential to really change the way you see the scriptures. And it may even be like that young seminary student who had a breakthrough, to whom Brother Penn said, "You've seen it, haven't you? What a wonderful thing." And I'm reminded of the Lord's words, "And the truth shall make you free." So thank you for joining me, and God bless you, and take care.